afternoon, everybody. So I went to this project manager's office, and I was trying to convince this person that actually he was a program manager. You know, the difference between a project manager and a program manager is that the program manager has minions to do the actual project management. So I went to this program manager's room, and I told him basically, look, I've been looking at the data for your program, a one-year program, and it looks like we're going to be about 6 months late, so that program will last about 18 months or so. And I said, okay, well, thank you for the information. I'll go and talk to the teams, because obviously the way you validate data is by asking people to guess, right? So he went and asked the teams, there was about 100 teams in this program, maybe 25 projects, something like that. And he asked all of the teams. He said, guys, we need to plan. He sent an email all over the world. And the team started estimating, because that's what you do when you're unsure of the time it will take to develop something, right? So the teams estimated. They came back to the program manager. And then I went back to his office, and I asked him, hey, so did you get some feedback from the teams? I mean, you know, I have data that kind of shows that we are 6 months late, more or less. And he turns to me and said, yeah, we have no problem. I've asked all the teams to plan and estimate, and every single team says they will deliver on time. So we have no problem. And I'm like, how did you get to be a program manager again? No, I didn't say that. I said, well, it's your job on the line. Unfortunately, as it turns out, it was also the whole company on the line. But I said, it's your job on the line. I'm going to step back, and I'm going to continue to count the features we are delivering every week and see if we are, you know, going through the backlog fast enough to deliver on time. And this product was supposed to go out on Christmas. So come summer next year, Christmas was already 6 months late. Actually, Christmas is never late. It was the program that was late from Christmas. And 6 months later, the program got canceled. 18 months of work, 500 people, an obscene amount of meetings later, totally morale destroying, demotivating, and as it turns out, also destroying for the company. This guy chose to believe the estimates as opposed to believing the data that was being presented to him. So this story is repeating all over the place right now. It's happening today. It's happening very likely in your organizations, unless you happen to be lucky enough to have been doing NoEstimates already. I know there are some of you out there. And because of it, we are slowly destroying our ability to deliver high-quality software on time that solves real customer problems. Why? Because we believe in estimation. We believe that if we spend time thinking about what we need to do, and we, in some more or less magic manner, assign a number to whatever we need to do, you know, whether it's the number of story points, number of days, man hours, whatever the number is that you are assigning to those items. We believe that once you assign a number, we actually know how long it takes to deliver that. So here's what I'm trying to tell you. Today, I'm going to hopefully show you that believing in estimates is worse than believing in unicorns. Because at least the unicorns are harmless and they are fun. Estimates can destroy your company, and they are damn boring to create. So I've built a twist into this presentation. It's 10 new principles for software development. But something that some of you might not actually know. The first time this presentation was ever shown, it was at a testing conference in Helsinki, Finland. And the original title of this presentation, which is still on SlideShare, you can look it up, it's 10 New Principles for Software Testing. What a coincidence, like full circle. But it's actually 11 principles these days, so it got improved. And the 11th you get for free. No need to pay. You will get it for free. Before we go on, you can get the book either by going there right now or just noting down the URL and going there in the next 24 hours. You can get the whole book for free and read it to see how we can actually use a very powerful concept. I know it's novel and so on. It's kind of perhaps even innovative to look at data instead of guessing. But in any case, the book explains how to go there. And most importantly, it explains how to go there in a way that doesn't require you to get the other people to stop estimating. Like, they can still estimate. But once you read the book, you will have a much better way to follow progress in your project that doesn't require you, and this is the key, to estimate. You don't need to estimate. That others want to do it, that's fine, Others also want to elect Donald Trump, that's fine. Oh, maybe that might not be fine. Fingers crossed here. But it's so funny how we totally accept NoEstimates to be applicable in other domains. But when it comes to estimating the effort or duration of a software project, everybody goes crazy when the hashtag NoEstimates is mentioned on Twitter. I mean, even Agilists are against NoEstimates. It's kind of an equal opportunity hashtag in that regard. But it's funny how, for example, in football, it's perfectly okay to not have estimates. I mean, of course, there's a lot of people betting on the games, but nobody would be stupid enough to bet all of their money on the result of a football game, right? Here's Iceland kicking Portugal's ass. I'm Portuguese, by the way. This guy here looks like a project manager who just saw his project was late. And this guy here is the competitor who's going like, yes, we're going to sell more. But of course, as you know, the story kind of took a turn for the better. Sorry, Germany. And Portugal ended up winning. The upset team, the team that almost lost against Iceland, ended up winning the Euro Cup. I'm pretty sure the bookies did not see that coming at the end of the first game. But even if they would have seen that coming, they would have never bet the whole house on the result of the Euro Cup. That would be stupid, right? Do we agree that betting your whole entire wealth in the result of one single football match would be a stupid idea? Yeah, okay. So why do we do this with projects? Why do we bet all our money, which is a bet, by the way, because estimates are, by definition, at least in part, a guess. Why would we bet all our money in software projects? And if you don't believe that people bet all of their money, let's wait for a second. But let's go through the 10, or actually, I should say 11 principles, because this one goes all the way up to 11. Nobody saw Spinal Tap, I can see. No unicorns in Spinal Tap. But NoEstimates is for you, and just as a word of warning, advice, only if this is how you feel when you're in an estimation meeting. You go like, what? Again? Didn't we do this like 2 weeks ago? Why do we need to re-estimate? Of course, it could also be that this is how you feel when you have to give an estimate. In which case, yes, NoEstimates is for you. It's booby-trapped. That's how I felt. Confession, I used to be a project manager. I'm recovering now. Not fully, but I'm trying. And this is how I felt. There's this phrase, this catch-all phrase that all project managers use in their project plans, which is, this plan will hold if everything goes as we expected. When was the last time that happened? It's like, what? But here we go. That's what everybody says, right? And ultimately, NoEstimates is for you if you care more about keeping your customers happy than you care about being right about your estimates. If you care about being right about your estimates, well, then go ahead and continue to estimate, because you can't be right about estimates unless you do estimate. However, if you want to release on time, if you want to release on budget, and if you want to have some time to spend focusing on the happiness of your customers, then NoEstimates is for you. The story of this train is very interesting. How many of you know what this train is? Like, what's the name of the train? How many of you know that? Okay, so not many. This is the Shinkansen Train. It runs in Japan, has a few trunks, and from a testing perspective, this is very interesting. In 2014, this train had an average delay of 54 seconds. And that's including natural catastrophes. In 1997, this train had an average delay of 18 seconds. Now, I don't know how the trains work here in Germany, but I'm pretty sure it's not that level of being on time. But you know what they did for this train to be on time? They didn't try to guess. They built a new entire train line designed from the ground up to have trains be on time at the station. It's totally separated from any other traffic, so there's no other trains in that line. The lines are protected from animals so that they cannot cross the line, which could cause delays. Still happens in Germany, by the way, quite often, I'm told. There's no car crossing, so you can't actually, accidentally have a car stop in the middle of the line. And of course, the train can go much faster than it needs to go to be on time. Now, think of trains as projects, right? You enter a German project. No, sorry. Perhaps that's not culturally adequate anymore. You enter a software project, and you know it's going to be late. The question is only how much, right? And obviously, as the time goes, we kind of get nervous. It's like, oh my God, this is going to be late, not again. Oh, we have a re-estimation meeting. Dear project manager, the project is late. Oh, it's because you're not estimating right. Estimate better. As if estimating better will make the project go on time. But still, that's what people do. That's what the re-estimation and replanning meetings are all about. And obviously, you're nervous. If you take a train that is never on time, you're also nervous, right? If I have a customer meeting, let's say I'm going from Helsinki to Tampere, it's about 2-hour train ride. If I'm going from Helsinki to Tampere to be at a meeting, I know I need to be there 3 to 4 hours before the meeting, because otherwise, I might actually need to catch another train. Trains get cancelled all the time in Finland. In summer, it's because it's too hot. In the fall, it's because there are leaves on the track. In winter, it's because the ground is frozen. And in spring, it's because the ground is not frozen anymore. So when you enter the train, you go like, I'm not sure I'm going to be on time, so I might as well go the day before. Because, I want to be in that meeting on time because it's such an important customer meeting. Now, if I would be on a train from Osaka to Tokyo, I could be on the train that arrives half an hour before my meeting starts, and I would still have time to go to that manga shop that I wanted to see before I go to my customer's meeting. And I would not be nervous at all, because the average delay is 54 seconds. Right? We're not nervous when things run on time. We can take time to enjoy life, rather than being nervous and being in endless re-estimation meetings all the time. This is what this train tells us about software development processes. So here's principle number 1. If you do not trust your process, do not try to improve it. Change the process. Throw the old process to the garbage. Build a new process that is designed to give you what you're looking for, whether it's quality or being on time, or more slack time, or more creativity, or more experiments, whatever you're looking for. Just redesign the process to give you what you're looking for. Don't try to backfit a process that was already wrong when it started to try to make it fit current reality. Estimation, I'm looking at you. I'm going to get more of those today. Guys better catch up. Here's a project that I was involved in, and you guys, I mean, at least the testing community in the room fits this red arrow here. Some people call it testing or validation or quality assurance. I call it desperately testing and fixing phase, because that's how it feels, right? We're desperately testing and fixing. And you will note that the development phase was about 1/3 of the whole desperately testing and fixing phase. And here's the thing, this is a real project. And the dark blue line you see going up here is actually the number of open defects for that project. Now, this is not a trick question. If we are here, right at that last inflection point before the peak, when is this project going to be delivered? Any idea? The next day, no. There's no such thing as unicorns. Or did I just say that? No. Any idea? Will be cancelled. Yeah, well, so will be cancelled. I have no clue. Might not be released. What the hell's going on? Those are all valid answers, right? But note what happened at the peak. There's this magic moment here. And because there are no unicorns, I have to explain. This is not us being really good at what we do. This is us clicking won't fix, won't fix, won't fix, but doing it very fast. Right? This is not magic. This is us ignoring quality problems. And we go like, okay, now we're getting closer to release. Wait, we're not actually getting any closer because the number of defects is growing up again. And I'm going like, what did you expect? If you test more, you're going to find less defects? That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, this project actually got released here, which is about 3 months after the development phase ended. And guess what? In this company, we did a study. We looked at big projects, 3 months of validation phase, desperately testing and fixing phase. Medium-sized project, 12 weeks, desperately testing and fixing. Small project, care to guess? 90 days. Wow! They're like, there's no coincidence. There must be something going on here. So we kind of studied it, and we figured out what happened to this one. And it turns out that in this company, which I guess is common everywhere, but in this company, projects got released when the guys upstairs got so fed up of waiting that they came downstairs and said, guys, we need to release now. Right? It's like, hey, we're feature freeze. We're on time. See our smile? We're on time. And of course, 90 days later, you said you were feature freeze 90 days ago. You know, 12 weeks, 3 months ago. Why aren't we out yet? Well, we still have some bugs and so on. It's like, don't worry, just go live. Right? Why? Why would people do such a obviously stupid idea of releasing a product with bugs? Because they have a business to run, you know. Like they have to make money actually to continue to pay our salaries. So they can't afford to wait forever. But what this tells us is that estimation is useless because if you look at this, products get released not because they are estimated to be on time, not because we're good at estimation, but because we actually need to make money or serve customers. That's why products get released. So, yeah, we could have spent a lot of time estimating how long it would take to deliver this project, but then in the end, it would have nothing to do with it because the managers decide when it goes out. So, principle 2, this problem happens because we have very long feedback cycles. Principle number 2, by the way, if the Agile Manifesto would be rewritten today, it would say shorten the feedback cycle. It wouldn't say anything else. Individuals and interactions over process and tools. Why? Because it shortens the feedback cycle. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Why? Because it shortens the feedback cycle. And it goes on and on and on. Every single principle in the Agile Manifesto is about shortening the feedback cycle. some kind of feedback cycle. So from our perspective, we should shorten the feedback cycle about when are we ready to release. So very concrete, you can take it to work on Monday, rule of thumb for your project. If you have a 3-month feedback cycle, get a 1-month feedback cycle. If you have a 1-month feedback cycle, get a 2-week feedback cycle. If you have a 2-week feedback cycle, get a 1-week feedback cycle. If you have a 1-week feedback cycle, get a 1-day feedback cycle. If you have a 1-day feedback cycle, okay, you can stop there. If you want, you can go up to the 2nd feedback cycle, 2nd level feedback cycle. And that's the idea. If we shorten the feedback cycle, we get enough information to know what's going on so that we don't have to guess. Estimates are there because they are necessary for a large feedback cycle. Very large, typically. So large, it drives companies bankrupt. And if you don't believe me, wait for the data. Can estimates be accurate? This is a talk by J.B. Rainsberger, absolute must-watch, 7 minutes, 26 seconds. That's the name of the talk, and that happens to be also the duration of the talk. And why did it take 7 minutes and 26 seconds? It's not because JB is an excellent actor and memorized all the timings and the words and all of that. It's because he forced it to fit 7 minutes and 26 seconds. He knew what he wanted to say, and he made it fit the time he had available. This is just an example of how NoEstimates works, but he makes a very important point, which is that the cost or duration of anything, a project, a feature, a user story, a test run, is a factor of the essential complication of the problem and the accidental complication. The essential complication of the problem is, you know, very simply, if you want to put a rocket on the moon, that's relatively simple. You know, it follows physics rules and physics laws and so on. If you want to code software to handle your taxation, you've got a problem. Like it's, you know, this many books to read before you can even write the first line of code. So obviously, writing tax software is much more complicated than writing rocket operating software. But there's another thing, accidental complication. What's accidental complication? It's this thing, and he calls it, JB calls it, that we are not so very good at our jobs. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't have testing conferences, right? And it's like this. Something is simple when we start. So let's say we are estimating a story, which is add a user to the database. And we say, it's a 2. I mean, we've done this so often. It's simple enough. We know the database. It's an existing product. It's going to be easy. It's a 2. Right, cool. Now, the story goes to the backlog. It just so happens that it's not very high priority because there's higher priority stories. And now, 3 months later, you get to that story. It's now the next most important story in the backlog, and you start working on it. And you go like, why do we have 27 different ways to add users to the database? And why is each user going to a different table? And, oh, by the way, why do we require different information for each user that is added to the database? And you go like, a 2-point user story just turned into the refactoring project from hell. And by the way, it's still a 2-story point story. So when you compare a story today to a story in the past, you're comparing a story in the context of a system that is totally different from the context of that system in the past. So a 2-story point today is not the same as a 2-story point before the system was a big ball of mud. But it's still 2-story points. And you go like, wait, are you telling me that relative size estimation doesn't work for software that is being developed, i.e. evolving, i.e. changing, i.e. collecting technical debt? And I go like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Pretty much. Which tells you, if you agree with this reasoning, obviously, that relative size estimation is BS. It should be no surprise for most of you by now, because you've gone through the trouble of failing at relative size estimation. But that's what it means. If you don't take into account accidental complication, and some people do, it's called fudging the numbers, right? There's this magic constant that you just multiply the story points by as the number of lines grows. Inflation, yeah. So some people actually do that. But if you don't, Relative size estimation is BS. It's smoke and mirrors. It's useless, basically. And if it isn't useless, it's by accident, not by design. But that's only part of it, because, you know, there's the other part. Some people actually take their cues very seriously. I do this question in every single one of these talks. Let's see how it goes here. How many of you have removed defects or stories from a backlog that were, the stories or defects, 6 months old? Keep your hands up, please. 6 months old. Okay? 1 year old. Keep your hands up if you have done that. 2-year-old. 3 years old. 5. No? Oh, I win then. In one instance of this question, somebody kept their hand up until I said 7 years. So I'm your product owner. I come to you and I ask, how long will this story take? And you say, about 2 weeks. 7 years later, I come back. And I ask, where's the story? You said 2 weeks. And you go like, I'm sorry, you didn't ask how long it would spend in the queue. What? How many of you estimate queue time? How many of you estimate queue time? Well, okay, measure it is even better. But how many of you estimate, when you're estimating, you know, the people who actually still do estimates? I know it's many of you, don't hide. How many of you estimate queue time when you estimate something? There's 2 hands up. I count, no, 3, 4, 4.5 hands up. That's it. So here's the thing. Anything that you estimate that is work is going to spend 90, 95, 99, 99.5% of its lifetime in a queue. So what are we doing estimating the amount of effort that goes into that, the duration of that work, when up to 90x% of the time something is in a project, it's actually not being worked on? Can estimates be accurate in this context? And if you think this is not the case for you, go back home and measure the life of the average item on your backlog. Just do it. Check it out. If you're really, really good, you have a short enough backlog, you know, 5 items or so, and then it's not much. 2.5 years is the average. Yeah, cool, 2.5 years. How long will that feature take? Well, let me see. Maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3, 2.5 years. How about this other feature? 1 week. Do you have that database code right? Yeah, okay. Well, 2.5 years. Because that's the only number that matters. If something takes 1 week to develop, or even a month, but spends 2.5 years in the backlog, what's the number that matters? Actually, some people who do Kanban already have that number. They measure it. They don't estimate it. It's called lead time. Okay, but anyways, so yet some people still argue, no, it's Vasco, come on. You're just not very good at estimates, right? That's why you came up with this all crazy idea of no estimates. You're like, ooh, you must see unicorns every day. I did outside. Maybe it's true. But here's the thing, 80%, this is 2004 data, but I'll get more recent data, calm down, 80% late or failed projects. This is our industry. You know, the industry we are responsible for. No one else, not even Donald Trump, will fix the software industry. We have to do it. So let's look at the problem as it is. 80% of projects late or failed. 68% of projects in 95, that's the data I have. I'm sorry, I don't have more recent data for this breakdown. But in 95, 68% of projects were 51% or more late. 2009, average time of run, 63%. 2011, average time of run, 63%. I did the same tests in projects that I was involved with, in companies that I worked at, and 62% was the result, so I happen to believe this number. But of course, some of you will say, hey, chaos report. Hey, you like data, but chaos report is BS. It's not real data. Okay, fine, let's look at other surveys. Source, Gartner survey of project failure 2012, large IT projects, more than 1 million US, 28% fail. And that means fail as in delivered zero value. It doesn't mean late. There's a lot of late projects in this 72. It means fail, like total failure. Small projects better, but 20%. 1 in 5 projects fails. Of the large systems that are completed, and this is Capers-Jones, writing for the Journal of Defense Software Engineering, you know where they actually spend some time trying to be better at estimates. 66% experience schedule delays and cost overrun. Traditional projects, Scott Ambler's Project Success Survey, 53% failed or challenged. And challenged means that they are either late or they don't deliver the benefits they promised. If you thought Agile was better, think again. 40% failed or challenged. But here's the kicker. 17, almost 1/5, 17% of large IT projects go so badly, they threaten the very existence of the company. Yeah, there are people betting in software projects the whole house. This is like going into a casino with one difference. When you lose, you die. That's what estimates are. They limit the benefit you get, because the best you can do with an estimate is hit the estimate, i.e. not lose more money than you thought you would, but they don't help with the value. Being better at estimates is not going to give you more value. So first, believe the data, not the estimate. So if you're a project manager or if you're a team member that needs to give estimates to somebody else, continue doing that. There's no point in fighting the windmills, but don't believe them. Look at the data. Look at what you're actually delivering on a regular basis. Don't believe the estimates you give. Actually, believe those even less, because you're biased. But here's the thing. A good estimate, even a good estimate, is like 25% away from what you planned 75% of the time. Now, this is actually 3 PhDs that wrote this definition of a good estimate in 1986. This is quoted by Steve McConnell in the Demystifying the Black Art book. But here's the thing. Let me translate this definition of a good estimate to you. It's like you come to me, I'm a bank, you come to me and you say, hey, I have 100,000 euros to invest. Would you please invest those in my name? And I would say, yes, perfectly, no problem. And I'm actually a good investor. So I'm going to promise that I will not lose more than 25,000 euros of your 100,000 euros. And that's with a 75% chance. I might lose a lot more, but it's not likely. This is how we're running our companies. Seriously. This makes absolutely no sense. Yet, if you mention the fact that you could actually be, right about when the project is going out if you do certain changes, i.e. redesign the process to be on time, people will go like, you're crazy. We need estimates. And I'm going like, you need to lose some money is what you need, because you definitely have more money than sense. So we need to look at alternatives. We need to find alternatives for estimate-driven software development. But here's the thing. It's not just that estimates can't be wrong. Project number 1, the best at estimation. They were even ahead of schedule compared to the original estimate when the project was approved. Project 17, total failure, right? I mean, 200% late? Come on. Not even we do that. Well, just so happens that Project 17 created a new product for that particular company, which enabled a new service, which entered a new market, which created a new revenue stream that by now generates more than 50% of the revenue for that company. So here's the thing. Not only is it impossible, almost, nearly impossible, to get good at estimates, it's also useless. Because estimates are not value. Delivering something to the market is value. Getting the feedback from the market is value. And this is what this story tells you. The worst estimation project got the best value for the company. I have to go ahead. We'll talk Q&A later on. And here's the thing. You can read the whole story at test_for_value, bit.ly. And here's the thing. We worked with a customer, and they were totally disappointed. The developers were totally disappointed. They were demotivated. They had all of these great ideas, but nobody was listening to them. Their backlog looked like a collection of random tweaks to a user interface that somebody in upper management came up with. And of course, because it came from the upper management, it has to go to the upper backlog, right? That's the rule. So the team was totally disappointed. Together with the product owner, we said, hey, let's invest 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Let's not estimate. Let's invest 2 weeks on some cool new features that the guys already know they want to do and you think would be good for your business goals. So we got the team together. We came up with a couple of ideas. One of them is share on social media. The other one was share by email. And we implemented those. We put those live at the end of the 2 weeks. 3 days later, we generated the first sale using those features. So we went from an idea to revenues in 2 weeks and 3 days. But here's the kicker. We were not very worried with testing for functionality. We were testing for value. Most projects, most estimates are about functionality. They are not about value. And there's a very simple reason for that, because you can plan for functionality, but you cannot plan for value. Value you have to discover in the market. So for all of you testers out there, we desperately need a new class of testers that is very good at testing for value. And that, of course, shouldn't be only testers. It should also be product owners. It should be developers. It should be managers. But that's what we need to do. We need to test for value. And here's the thing. If you design a process around testing for value, the estimation of the duration is useless, because you need to go live. You need to test something in the market. You need to get that feedback. You need to learn. So you will not be able to plan the work, because you will be working on delivering value, not on completing tasks. And to deliver value, you need to get the feedback from the market. And guess what? The markets are pretty unpredictable. Sometimes you discover gold, like these guys did with this story, but most of the times you just dig dirt. That's what testing for value is all about, but it's the only thing that matters. Our society runs on software. It's time we stop doing more features and start delivering more value. Hey, second time. I want more, guys. Come on. So, principle 5 is test for value first. If there's value, test for functionality. If there isn't value, throw the code away. Like literally, take the code out of the code base, put it in the garbage. Don't worry, you can always recover it later if you want. That's why we have version control. So, can NoEstimates work in real companies? Here's a case from Germany. Sven Ditz, who's the CEO of Zeitgeist, he did an interview for the NoEstimates book, and he explains how they actually deliver projects and they deliver bids without estimating. They call it raw estimates. But the basic idea is that they just give a price tag to a list of things they call modules, but it's actually functionality. And they give that price tag no matter who the client is, no matter what the technology is, because that's based on the history they already have. So they look at the data, they price high-level functionality, give it to the customer, and guess what? You can do this without bothering the teams, because it's already defined. The prices are already defined. And when they went to customers, I mean, they didn't present this to every customer. I mean, it's Germany after all, right? Anyway, but in some customers, the customer said, this is exactly what we need, because now we can negotiate what that functionality is as we discover how it works. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation, ring a bell? Basic Agile, right? Without estimates. So principle 6 is estimation is waste. If you can find ways to reduce the use of estimates, to reduce the impact of estimates in your business, you will be saving money, you will be having people happier, and if you do it right, you might actually be on time more often than when you used estimates. Principle 7 is progress is measured only by running software. It's time we stopped using the earned value curve or some variation thereof, because it's, first of all, it's not earned, it's spent. It's actually money spent. It's not value, it's cost. And it happens to be a curve, that's correct. But other than that, earned value curve is a total misnomer. So let's measure how many features we deliver to the market, to the clients, to a production-like environment. This is probably never happened to you, right? Like somebody comes to the room and says, hey, how about you deliver, work a bit harder and deliver 10 stories next sprint. And you go like, but we're so busy and we never delivered 10 stories before. Like, why would we deliver that now? And the guy goes like, well, you guys, when I was a developer, we used to do things much better, right? You're familiar with that kind of conversation. And of course, this is the only adequate answer. Like, what have you been smoking? But here's the real case. This is a team. The blue line is the number of items delivered sprint by sprint. The other lines are just control lines, so I won't go into that now. But this is what they have been doing for the last 21 sprints. And now somebody comes and gives them this target. How are you going to reach that target, my friend? Split my story smaller. If you're able to do that, that's actually a good idea, but most people can't do that either. Technical debt, accumulate technical debt. Yes, you will have to pay for it later, but at least you get your bonus, right? Inflate the stories, cheat, lie, all the good stuff. But nothing that has value. Setting targets outside the normal velocity of a team is just a plain stupid idea. And I didn't say that. I'm taking credit for it right now, but I didn't say that. This is a very old statement from Deming many, many years ago, that setting a target outside the normal performance of a system is a waste of time in the best case and can cause havoc in the worst case, right? Technical debt being one example. So, these are only some of the dysfunctions that come straight with estimation, estimate bargaining. Come on, guys, you can do better. Internal politics, hey, let's get our projects together, make them look bigger and then they get approved. Blame shifting, how long will it take Anton to deliver? You said 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, I come back. Come on, you said 2 weeks. And now it's his fault that we're not on time. It's useful, by the way, if you want to use that technique. It's good for promotion. And late changes. People go like, oh no, we're changing the scope again. And I go like, yes, that's what we want. But estimates don't work with late changes because it invalidates the estimate. And sunk cost fallacy, also known as, we've already spent $1 million on this, why not spend $500,000 more? I mean, how hard can it be? We're already going to die. Principle 8, the system where you work has predictable outputs. If you learn how to measure the outputs of the system, you don't need to estimate anymore. Simple. Of course, it's not that simple, but if you redesign the process from the ground up to be on time, it can be simple. So, do we have a better alternative? Of course, we're coming up to principle 10, so of course you're already waiting for the solution. So here's a story. This guy's estimated their whole backlog, the whole backlog, with 1, 3, and 5 story points each story, which is better than most. There's only 3 slots, which is awesome. But here's the thing. They did the cumulative flow diagram, so the blue bars is what the story points they've delivered, red bars, story points to deliver. They projected the 2 lines, and boom, release in 20th of October 2014. By the way, this is called projection or forecasting, not estimating. The estimate is the size of the stories, not the lines. The lines are actual lines drawn on paper or, in this case, drawn by Excel. So it's actually calculation. So it's forecasting, not estimation. But then they did something very interesting. They did what I would call Excel magic, and they just did, find and replace. A 5 becomes a 3 becomes a 2. It's not even the same relative scale. What will the date be? 6 days difference. Totally different scaling or estimating scale. 6 days difference in the projection. What if we remove the estimates? What will happen? So they put all of the stories with the value of 1, as if they were all just one story, which they are. And then they did a cumulative flow diagram. They projected release 29th of September 2014. That's a 3-week difference between the pessimistic and the optimistic forecast in a 38 to 42-week project. 8%. Do you remember the definition of a good estimate? 25% wrong 75% of the time. This is 8%. It's a hell of a lot better if you ask me. I would rather be 8% wrong than 25% wrong. Well, in Christmas it doesn't help because, you know, can't delay Christmas by 8%. But in any case, it's still better. This is the guy that did this experiment, Bill Hanlon at Microsoft. And when we were exchanging emails about this experiment that he ran, which is an experiment that I would invite you all to run on your own project, he said, at that point, I stopped thinking estimation was important. I won't go through that. Just to go to principle 9, stop betting your company on methods that have so poor track record as estimation. In the book, we tell the story of Carmen, a project manager who goes through this 7-step, nicely tidy and organized way to go and define a new process where you don't need estimates, where you can be on time. There's 9 video interviews with the book. But don't forget that it doesn't matter what the process is. Change starts with you. It's you who need to change. By the way, don't try to convince other people until you've convinced yourselves. But I did say there was an 11th principle. So here's the thing. I used to live in Germany. Oops. Oh, now you saw the joke. Anyways, I used to live in Germany, and I had to catch planes in Frankfurt. And I was driving from around Stuttgart all the way to Frankfurt. And those of you that are familiar with that highway, you know that it's not very reliable. It's a bit like estimates, you know. And I was driving up, and I had everything planned. I was on time. Everything was fine. The car had gas. And as I was driving up, I hit Stau. Stau, for those of you who don't live in Germany, it's like it's something that makes the fastest highways in the world simultaneously the slowest highways in the world. This is Germany, so we have both extremes because we like variety. So this is what happens to me. And I go like, damn, I lost my plane. What just happened? Why did I lose the plane? The reason is simple. I put myself in a all-win or all-lose situation. And this is what projects are. They're like poker, all in. If you lose, too bad. So why do we keep on doing projects like this? Projects are not the right way to deliver software. But don't forget, the change starts with you, and please rate the session. Thank you very much.